Today, we get to speak about healthy cultures, right? How to build one, what you have to do to get there, and what might you do if you leave, or if it's not a good, healthy place. And today I'm lucky to have my father, Jim Heidema, who is a world-renowned trainer, author of multiple books, and actually has led and trained and coached so many dozens upon dozens of people to be effective in their work and to contribute value and create healthy culture. So thank you, Dad, for being here. And thank you for taking on these rapid fire questions. They're gonna be quick. You're gonna have like 30 seconds to answer and we'll move on. You've worked at many different organizations when you were an employee, when you were a manager, when you were a trainer. Then you left the corporate space in terms of being an employee, and then you started training and coaching and facilitating all kinds of companies in all kinds of countries. What are one or two locations or countries that stand out for you as being a very healthy culture?
That's a really good question, Paul. You know, one that comes to mind right now is in Jamaica. I've done a lot of work in Jamaica. And in Jamaica, it's based upon a Christian society. And so there's that sort of desire to be helpful to one another and all of that. And that came across when I was coaching with them, that they were open, they were willing, they were supportive, they were positive. So it was just a very positive environment in which one can coach and train.
What are one or two observable behaviors you can see that promote a healthy culture in the management and its staff?
Starts with leadership within an organization. I mean, in those organizations in which the leader is open and accommodating and willing to listen and inspires and is charismatic, you tend to see that flow through the organization. And when that's absent, of course, you don't see that. And then it starts with this sort of a common goal that exists within the organization. Do they really want to work together? Do they really want to work towards the goal? Do they feel that they're making a difference?
What are things that leaders say, one or two things that they say that detract or take away from a positive space? And one or two things they say that actually really can encourage and support a positive?
There's two words. If a leader uses the I word too often, then it doesn't inspire and empower people. So what's the opposite of that? We're in this together. We're working towards a goal. We've got these objectives. So those are the two primary things I see in their how they communicate. A leader has to walk the path that you're walking, that if they expect people to have an excellent work ethic, they should have a work ethic. If they expect people to be open and committed to what they're doing, they should be open and committed to what they're doing.
Obviously, you and I are in the same agreement when we think about culture that everybody plays a part.
Mm-hmm.
What are the kinds of things that those that are in staff, that are not in leadership roles, that are not managers, what can they do to help make their space more encouraging, more supportive, more healthy?
It comes back to leadership and management and all that the people that run the organization, that lead the organization, value everyone's participation. And then it comes to the individual to realize that whatever part they play is a valued part in the process. And if they really have that work ethic and really care about the quality of whatever they're doing, that has effect on the overall. You know, example, if you're shooting a video and you've got someone who really doesn't care about the camera, of course you're going to have issues. If you're running a program in which you're providing some level of service to the customer and the person who answers the phone to the customer doesn't care about the customer, that has an effect. So obviously that everyone has a role to play and everything is valued. Certainly we pay differently for different skills and all of that, but everyone should feel that they are contributing.
So you mentioned this idea that everybody has a part to play, that their contribution matters. So there's a model out there that's going around the corporate space, and I'm sure you've heard of it, but maybe you haven't thought about it recently, which is the idea of a T-shaped employee, which is someone that has depth in one area, which is the kind of pole of the T.
Yeah.
And then the top of the T is the idea they have breadth. They have the ability to kind of move between places. What does that look like for you when you work with teams or work with individuals?
Well, I guess it comes to flexibility, you know. The worst thing you can hear on a team is someone that Paul said in a former video that you should look for, but he said, it's not my job. You know, that's the worst thing you hear. As well as coaching, I also am a chief operating officer for an airline. And when I run into that, we're very much a team. You know, your ability to fly with an aircraft and be safe and provide service and all that depends on a lot of different people performing different tasks. And for someone to say to me, that's not my job, I find very frustrating. And so you have to be a willingness that sometimes, I mean, I've been out on the tarmac marshalling aircraft. I've been loading bags on planes. I've been answering the telephone when the need is required. And so I would expect that from all team members, that if there's a job to be done, you should do it. It's something I learned from my father. My father's very good about this. He never thought that there was a woman's role or a man's role. And he said, who's ever closest, the task does it. So if the garbage has to be picked up, or the floor has to be washed, or the dishes have to, or a meal has to be cooked, whoever's closest gets to do it, and should do it willingly. So again, that willingness to sort of be committed to what we're doing and value it, and not feel that, well, it doesn't fit within my job description.
So let's assume, or let's hope, that our viewers and others that we're coaching and supporting are actually trying to do all these things you're mentioning, which I think would be phenomenal if that's true. Now, let's say they put all this effort forward, they're contributing, they're trying to do whatever they can, and the company doesn't support them, doesn't really value this idea of having a healthy organization. What are their options?
That's a tough one. I'll give you an example. I was working with a company that Paul used to work with, and we had a client, the Ontario government, and I and another colleague were doing the training for this team in a different part of Ontario. And we would go there on a regular basis and help them build their team. And they did such a great job that they won the top team in Ontario. And I think the infrastructure of Ontario government is probably tens of thousands of people work for the Ontario government. And this was the top team in the entire government. And then along came a new leader and disbanded the team, which made no sense to me at all. But politics are politics. And so what do you do in those situations? Well, what happened is some of those people moved on to other teams, and actually some people left the organization. And so again, sometimes you are powerful enough that your voice can be heard, and sometimes you're not. And you have to make a decision what you're going to put up with, what you're going to find acceptable and unacceptable. You know, that's one of the reasons I left London Life, is my charismatic leader, Drew Wallace, was replaced by someone who wasn't charismatic, who didn't have the same work ethic, who didn't empower people, and I couldn't work in that environment, so I left. So sometimes that's the only option you have.
So because of that, you ended up starting your own company, training hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and wrote a whole bunch of books, and now we're coaching. Saying how things work.
Well, it opened the door for me. So I thank him for that. No, really. I mean, really, I wouldn't probably, if Drew had continued, I probably would have continued there on to retirement. But he left, and he moved on to a very good position. And I moved on to a much better environment, a healthier environment for me, one which I really enjoy and I find really stimulating.
So I guess we all can play our part, create a healthy culture. And if we can't, go find another one or build one.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Pleasure, buddy. Love you.
Love you, dude. Thanks so much for watching my video. Check out this video on my dad's channel that will continue some of our thinking around healthy leadership, around passion, and so on. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. I'd love to hear comments so we can kind of get back to you and have a dialogue. Thanks so much.